That's good. That's good. Okay. Well, hello. I'm Martín Itúrbide from. I live in Quito, in Ecuador. I run the OS2 World website, and what I wanted to do is try to build an ArcaOS retro gaming machine and try some retro gaming and see what and tell us about the experience and what is missing, what is working, and well, and just have some fun playing with it. First, I want to dedicate this presentation to David Richards that passed away a few months ago. He's the one that he's the one that his widow sent us all his collection, and we have it right here. Yesterday, while we were opening the box, we really knew that this collection mean a lot for David, and he had put a lot of love and caring in his collection, and we have it right here. So this is to David. I had worked with David, and for the past year, David was on a project of scanning the OS2 magazines. I was helping him, and well, it was like I lost contact with him like on the last 2 weeks, and then I found out he suddenly passed away. And well, he had helped a lot the OS2 community. He had scanned a lot of magazines, and a lot of documentation is available on the internet thanks to him. Okay, let's go. So, what's the objectives of this experiment? The objective was to try ArcaOS, see how good or bad it is as a retro gaming operating system, try some games on it. Also try to document some of the tools that are required if you're going to use it as a gaming machine. Also list the good and the bad stuff, what is working fine, what is not working yet, and also having some fun playing games and spending your time on it, okay? First I needed to create my gaming system, my gaming computer. So I chose a computer that I have on the office, that was a ThinkPad L420, and it has like 4 gigabytes of RAM, 1 terabyte hard disk, and I installed on it ArcaOS 5.03. Okay. Important things are that the audio device is working. Sometimes, well, there are machines that are not compatible with UniAudio. This one worked. This is the device is an Intel cover point. This is how PCI.X recognized the device, and that is the hardware ID. And UniAudio was working with it. It provides sound and stable sound, so it was good enough. Then for the video I used the Panorama driver. It had an Intel HD graphics, and it also worked decent enough for retro gaming, okay? So after a while I had my system set up, it works, it boots, Wi-Fi is not working, okay? But I don't need Wi-Fi, this is there are not much of well, there are network-based retro games, but it was not the goal to try some network. But Ethernet is working, okay? Ethernet is important if the cable is working fine, okay? So, as an extra tool that I require, besides some libraries, I use ISOFS, which is a tool so you can mount ISO files, the CD-ROM images. So since there are on the internet a lot of ISO images, you can download, you can try. It's also good to have this tool so you can mount it as a drive and take the files and run the games and make the game think it's a CD-ROM drive install or mount, okay? So this is the tool that I require. And first I'm going to start with the native gaming. Native gaming will be like the games that are compiled to run on OS2, Ecom Station, or ArcaOS. Okay? So for that kind of games, you need like the following libraries. SDL libraries, which is a graphic library, which many of the open source games use to work. Then there are the some older libraries, also graphic libraries, that are the GI libraries. A few games required, is not very critical. And then for also other open source games, you need some other libraries like Qt, GCC, and libc. Okay? So you go just to, okay, you go to RPM Jump and you just install the pack of libraries. I have some issues with the SDL libraries that are on the NetLabs RPM. So I use the latest version on hubs and install those SDL libraries, and I ignore the one of RPM. It's like they need to be updated and see and organize on the NetLabs RPM the SDL libraries. Okay. So what I did first, I started this project that is called One Huge File of War Games, or OFO. I don't know. I need to call it somewhere, somehow. So I try to consolidate all the native games in just one file, 1.4 gigabyte file, and I just organize all the open source, shareware, and freeware games that are available for OS2, and I upload it into the Internet Archive that allows me to put a lot of files there. It doesn't care about space, and I just consolidate all games and organize it in an alphabetical way. I don't know if you can see it. I have like this is how the huge zip files look when you unzip it. You have the alphabetic folders from A to C, number A to C, and you have each folder for each file for each game. So I try to organize them. Not all games run. Some games are, well, I'm going to explain it later, but I try to put all the games possible there. There are like, okay, no, sorry, I forgot the slide. There are a lot of games, and well, you can also download it. It's just 1.4 gigabytes. You download gigabytes everything. Okay, so you can zip it, try it, and try the games, the native games that we all know. Okay, there are board games, there are action games, and we can try it all. How was the experience? Well, the native gaming experience is the same as the original OS2 on ArcaOS. There is a few things missing, but it's not critical. It maintains the original experience of OS2. Of course, I have no USB joystick support. There is no available USB joysticks.
Is USB joystick a special USB class, just like USB
Just
serial
HID,
keyboard?
standard human interface device, HID.
Even
It's
if
standard
we-
in most OSs
Yeah, but
anyways.
even if we have the driver for
Yeah.
USB, we need the library and the game using the library.
Right.
So
Okay.
Or it'd have to be wrapped to
yeah.
some game port library
no,
to
I-
map
yeah.
out the
I
functions.
just wondered if it's a USB, is joystick a special device, or is it just a,
There was,
Maybe
there
it's
was,
not special.
I know that in Warpstock 2002, I can't remember who it was, somebody was working on the USB joystick support,
oh.
and their laptop was stolen that had the code from the hotel.
Yeah.
Okay. So well, there is no
Yeah.
USB joystick support. There is joystick support with the old joystick support with the game port, which is not already, which is not available anymore. The old game port.
Yeah, and that wasn't the same as the serial port.
Yeah, it's not the same, and it's long gone,
Yeah.
and nobody's missing that. Oh man, no. Maybe us, but well, that may be the only issues with the native experience. Other issues are, remember, audio support is required, UniOut has to work. And the other issue that I found is MIDI support. There are some games that have some MIDI support for the background of the game. It runs a MIDI file, the background, and all the songs, all the explosions, all the stuff. And MIDI support is not available. It may work with like Humidity and some other MIDI tools. You can run MIDI files, you can hear MIDI files, but if you don't have it integrated into MMOS 2, it is not, the application will not run it, or the game will not run it because the game will try to run MIDI through MMOS 2, okay? So even there is an application, well, I discussed it on the forum, how to make the MIDI to work on MMOS 2, but the software was too old and it was not really working, and some kind of bridge had to be made between MMOS 2 and Timidity to make it work. So that's also a limitation, but there are not a lot of games that use MIDI, native games. So it's not like a too big issue. And some other issues that some games depend on Snap. Some of the open source games that were ported depend on Snap. And since I'm using Panorama, they are not running. I will have to switch to the other driver. But it will be great if a few games can be recompiled so they cannot mandatory use the Snap technology. And of course the USB support that we talked about. Okay, next, D1S Gaming. So we have like two ways to try D1S games. The first one is going through the native or standard way of the virtual D1S sessions that OS2 provides. So, to be honest, from back in the days when, from what I remember when I was younger, it's a lot of easier now to run games on ArcaOS than on the original OS2 were, because ArcaOS included Compact that make it really easy to have like a pre-configured DOS session. Back on the Warp days, Warp 4.0, you have to tweak every DOS session to run on a specific game. There was the helper application that say, oh, you're going to run Mortal Kombat, you have to do all this stuff. You're going to run Doom, you have to do all this stuff. So now it's very, very standard, and I try some games like Mortal Kombat, Doom 1, Doom 2, and some other video games directly, and they run very, very easily. They run on full screen, on a full screen session, okay? There are a lot of DOS games, a lot of, really. So I haven't chance to test it all, but for what I test, it worked fine. It was playable. It was a fun experience. Also, I'm going to explain the problems on the next slide, but also you can get more information, or you can download more DOS games on the Internet Archive on that address. Internet Archive tries to preserve every DOS game that was available, and you can download it. You can even play it on the browser, but well, not very good on Firefox, but it runs. Okay, the next slide. I want to talk about some of the setup. In some machines there are some problems displaying DOS sessions. it's worth to try this ArcaOS patch. It may work, it may not work.
Is it the DOIP patch?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's good to give it a try
Yeah.
and see what happens. So let's keep that in mind. There's also an ArcaOS page with some known issues about the OS session, which is also good to read about. Okay. And we have the other alternative. Oh, sorry, I think there's one slide missing. Okay. Okay, I don't know. Well, to talk about some, I don't know if the slide is coming, but some of the issues on the virtual DOS gaming is that there is no sound. Yeah. I don't know. Just let me check if the slide is here. It's just hiding because I remember making the slide. Okay, no, it's coming right after it. No problem. The other way to run DOS games is with the OSBox. We have a port version of the OSBox and it's working. Sounds also works because it uses the SDL library to connect to the sound driver. See, and it works on Windows and full screen modes. Okay, so this is a different way to run the OSBox, and it's working. It's very stable too, and you can play games here. What is missing now in general about DOS gaming? The native or the virtual DOS has some issue with audio, so we don't have sound support. There is this driver called DT Audio. There is like experimental. ArcaOS has the right of it that allows to give DOS sessions audio support through UniAudio. So yes, there are things on DOS that provide some audio, but there is not like a Sound Blaster emulator on DOS. So right now the games are just mute. So as a retro machine for DOS, this is a must-have that is missing right now. But you can use the OSBox and also have audio. Okay? And some other games cannot run in the virtual DOS window with mode, but you can also, if you really need to, when you play a game you want it in full screen, if it's a very interesting game, if DOS games you want it in full screen, you can go directly to the virtual DOS mode and run it in full screen, or you can use the OSBox. Okay? So audio is maybe like the biggest issue of the DOS retro gaming stuff. Okay? Which DT Audio sounds promising. Let's hope it can evolve and give us audio on DOS stations. I also went to test some Windows 3.1 gaming, 16-bit Windows, okay, 16 Windows games. So I tried some games like Sky Jump. I don't know if you can see it or you remember it was the a man on skiing going.
That was called
down the
Ski
hill.
Free.
What?
I thought that was called Ski Free.
Sorry?
I thought that was called Ski Free.
Yeah.
Maybe it's called a different name in another
Yeah.
country.
Okay.
It could be.
Oh, yeah, maybe, yeah.
Well, it was Sky Jump. I downloaded and tried.
That's going to make me look it up later to see if it was called some different
Maybe-
countries.
Maybe it was a clone of the other game. I tried some other game for like inspiring Star Trek called Wing Trek, and I also tried Sim Earth on Windows 3.1. It works fine it worked without any problems on the virtual Windows sessions, and there are
sound
also
work?
more games on. What?
Did the sound work on any of them?
Yeah, sound works also with DT Audio.
No.
It works, I think, because it's I don't know. I don't really know the details, but it works like different from the DOS session.
Right,
It's like
I just wanted to
it's
show
like
that
it
it
gives
work. It
yeah
should work.
yeah, oh yeah. It gives it's a driver for Windows 3.1.
Yeah.
So it's on, yeah, it works. It's not like you require some Blaster emulation here. It's like on DOS, like every game talks directly to the Sound Blaster,
Yeah.
and on Windows it's just the driver that you give me. So it works fine, and you can experience the Windows 3.1 games with Sound without any more issues. There are some more. There are the requirements. Audio, DT audio. Formerly no DTA. It was long ago. It was called DTA. Now it's called DT audio. Required to have well, it's required that's the driver that gives you sound on Windows sessions, and of course for DT audio you have to do some WinOS session tweaking, which is very important to read the README files, because if you just tell the driver and run it, it will not work. You need to tweak the session now, the properties of the WinOS 2 session. Okay, so it's important to read, yeah, because it took me some time until say, okay, let's read the README file. Okay, so don't forget about that. Then there are some other games on Windows that require some extra things. I have some issues with QuickTime 2.1.2, very old QuickTime, but there are games that require that libraries to run. There is also video for Windows 1.1e, and sometimes there are some games that require media player, but they are not very common. But sometimes you require that things on your Windows session. Okay. Now we move on to the next level. I wanted to try Windows in 32 bits games with Odin. Okay, I'm saying right, Odin?
Odin.
Okay. So, so to try this, what I did is to install the Odin libraries on the machine, and depending on luck, see how some games react to try to run it on OS2, okay? And the issue here is that games need to be tested individually. You need to grab one game and see if you have luck or not, and see how it works. And this is an area where I require more help to check more games. There are a lot of games of Windows in 32 bits, and to be honest, it's something that not all operating system offers. Windows today in 64 bits do not run games. It lacks support for 32 bits, and maybe Linux with the Wine project can run the games better, but it's something that is not very common. Usually these kind of games are not running anymore. They run on virtual machines, okay? This area requires more testing. Some of the issues, many games will not run, and some other games will partially work but may look strange or may not have sound. For example, I tried, you recognize this? I don't know if you recognize it. It looks very yellow, and it's SimCity 3000. Yeah, it runs, it is playable. I remember it has some sound, you can put things, but sometimes the menu didn't display right, and you have to look to be like remembering where the icon was to drop things, and it looks very strange, but it was playable. SimCity 3000. Okay, so this is here's where you require more time to check more games, to try to see if some of the older Windows library you can copy there and see if it works. It depends much on luck, and you also have to. It is also important to try to document everything you are doing, everything, every library is working and libraries which are not working. Well, when you bring Windows to the OS2 operating system. So that's it. Well, the person I'm going to, can we have fun with games in ArcaOS? Yes, I spend a lot of time playing. Yes, we can have fun. Yeah, but well, there's also that we need to do some work to test the games, to see if it works, to tweak it, and it works. So yes, I did have fun trying some games, and yeah, you can spend a lot of time. You can waste a lot of time playing ArcaOS games, downloading it from the Internet Archive that have a lot of games, and spend all the time you can. Okay. I don't know if there are any questions.
The DT audio.
Yeah.
I think this has been around a long time.
Yeah, DT Audio was from what I remember, it was back from the Ecom Station days. I don't know if it was.
Station.
I don't remember.
Roderick worked on it before he joined Mensa's.
Okay, I don't remember. I just remember it
Yeah.
show up on the Ecom Station testing beta site, and I downloaded from it.
Yeah, that's when I first heard about it too,
Yeah,
Ecom
but
Station.
I don't remember it
Yeah,
back
I sort of remember it from '98.
then.
Is that possible?
I don't remember it being that
the
early.
whole-
It could be,
For
but
what
I don't know.
ArcaOS not have the right of that driver, and is working on it. It happens. Well, I don't know if you want to say something officially about
I was
the
just
driver.
asking which of you want.
Sure.
Okay, so DTA, which was the Digital Transfer Agent, and is now DT Audio, was written by John Gow, who was one of the early NetLabs guys. And I guess John started it back in the 90s. Isn't that how old some of the code was back?
Well, actually, the thing was started by, it was written by IBM people, and it was uneven. Gal came along, had some insights as to where IBM was going wrong, and took it from there, improved on what they had, but he didn't like it. So he then proceeded to really rewrite the whole thing from ground up, and it has the potential for being really very powerful because it handles video, it handles, if you have some other sort of media or whatever, it could handle that and so on. But I guess he lost interest or whatever, with the result that his version, he never quite finished. I have several copies of it. None of them compiled, so clearly he didn't get that far. We didn't get a very good copy. Now we have it to a point where it compiles, it works. We can do have a stupid little test program that does make sound in DOS. But that's because it's talking directly to DTA, as opposed to every game is expecting to talk to a Sound Blaster.
Yeah.
And that is our big problem. In Windows, on Win 3.1, he sort of cobbled something together in his last version that took like parts of the IBM stuff and parts of his own. And so that part works. But what we're looking for is somebody who's capable of writing a Sound Blaster emulator. Good luck.
I've only heard of, the only program I've ever heard that does that is VDM
The point
sound.
of DT Audio is that it's essentially a client-server model. So you can have any client written to talk to the DT Audio server, which then hands the information off to the ultimate sound driver, which is generally Union for us. But the idea is that it should be able to talk to any audio driver on the other side. So we have the Windows part for DOS. We would need a virtual Sound Blaster driver, and that would talk to it and so on and so forth.
But it's working fine. Well, on Windows 3.1, it does work.
Now that's
good, yeah.
thanks to Rich,
Yeah.
because he really took the code, we got the code, it was rather rough. By John's own admission, it was rather rough from what he could pull together, and the binary that we had didn't match the sources that we had. It was like half buildable almost, and so yeah, Rich did quite a bit getting it to the point where it is now. The other trick with it is with the installer, because you mentioned that when you can't just unzip it and run.
Yeah.
You've got to modify the Win31 setup, and all that needs to go into the installer when we finally put it together, so that an end user can just install the package with Warpin.
Yeah.
We'll probably use Warpin and not RPM for that, but just install the Warpin and have it work. So we've got to modify the configuration files accordingly.
Yeah.
That part we haven't done.
Yeah, but you have to read the readme.
You have to read the readme. You've got to read the readme.
It was like 1 hour waste for me.
And there, I mean, there are some other odd limitations with it. So, for instance, if you use the fast load option for Win31 in OS2, that loads a part of the Win31 DLLs at the time that the desktop starts up, it won't work, because that will load too soon. Those DLLs will be in memory too soon. So you need to make sure that that's not set. And
I don't know how to say
EMS
it.
also has to be disabled.
that's the other one. Yeah.
What is it?
EMS memory.
Yeah, EMS is the trick there. Yeah. So otherwise it will trap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're saying not only do you have to read the README file, you actually have to follow the directions?
Yeah, the reading is the first part, and the following the directions is the second part. The two of them go hand in hand.
Outrageous. Outrageous.
But when it works really well. It works
Yeah.
really well.
And well, I also invite you to join and try to test some games and report it on the forum and say how it's working, and to download the native game, the OSBox package, and check it out and play some games and spend some time there. Okay. Thank you.
I didn't even realize that. Yeah, right. Right.
Yeah, he was telling you.
Yeah, I'll do a bunch of testing with the games.
The break right now, right?
I think we're
I
all
don't know.
ready.
Is it? Are we?
Yes, it's.
I didn't bring my watch. My phone's in my pocket, so I don't know what time it is. No, I was saying I'll try. I'll probably test a bunch of games too.
Yeah, it's fun.
I've spent a lot of time playing games. So.
Well, I missed it.
Oh, sorry, I forgot that. Okay, no problem. I will send you that.
Yeah.
I read it.
I will send with Will Wheaton.
Will we do?
Giving our advice. He used this advice for the gaming world when they say don't be a dick when you want overdose. But it's also applied for every internet interaction. So it's good always to check
Whether they work
if you're being a dick.